and welcome to the Press Room with WCN-TV, brought to you by the Wilson County News. We're your source for community and communication. I'm your host, Julia, the Marketing and Social Media Specialist here at the Wilson County News. This week, we're talking in depth about topics from our August 31st edition of the Wilson County News. In today's video, we'll be covering the following topics: growth in the city of Elmendorf, and the 2022 Pick It to Win It football guessing contest. You can read the Wilson County News available on newsstands near you to learn more about these topics, or even read it online at wilsoncountynews.com. Links to specific articles in the August 31st edition of the Wilson County News related to the topics discussed today will be in the description of this video. Don't forget to follow us on the platform you're watching so you never miss an episode of the Press Room with WCN-TV or any of our other video news. In the August 31st edition of the Wilson County News, we shared coverage of Elmendorf City Council's August 18th meeting. During the meeting, the council discussed various items related to the city's growth, including water purchases and speed limits, and approved a list of notable contributors to the city to potentially honor with street names in the Hickory Ridge subdivision, which is taking shape in Elmendorf, among other things. Here today to discuss the city's growth and how the council is approaching it is George Juke Jr., the newest addition to Elmendorf City Council as their Place 3 councilman. Welcome to the Press Room, George.
Thank you.
Of course. How long have you been a resident of the city of Elmendorf?
My family moved out to Elmendorf in 1960.
Wow.
And for a while, my wife and I tried an apartment in San Antonio and decided to move back out to Elmendorf pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And we've been there in the house since '78.
Wow.
So we've been there a while, but we were always outside the city limits.
Right.
Up until 2016 when we got force annexed, which did not thrill me because it was $675 out of my pocket that I could have kept.
Yeah.
And I really didn't see where I was getting that much. But once it's done, I started going to the city council meetings, and next thing I know, they wanted me to be on the planning and zoning board. So I said, okay, I'll give it a shot. And I've been on that up until I was elected to the city council here in May.
Wow. Okay.
By a guy named Dooley, because nobody ran against me.
Okay.
And they give me a paper that says you are duly elected. I said, I gotta go find that guy.
That's great. Well, what do you like about living in the community?
What I've always liked about living out there is it's good people in the community. I've known them so long, you know, it's home. And it's a very quiet place. There's a train whistle once in a while.
Right.
And there's noises from the power plant once in a while.
That would make sense.
But other than that, that's small sacrifices or things to put up with. When I worked for Southwestern Bell, I worked around the airport.
Right, that's a lot
And
of noise.
those people have very nice houses, but they can't soundproof them enough to keep the noise of those jets from coming through. So yeah, it's a good place. Elmendorf is nice.
I'm glad you think so. So you mentioned formerly being on the Planning and Zoning Committee and joining City Council through election in 2020, or was that?
2022.
2022,
Yeah,
okay, so this year.
2-3 months, yeah.
Wow, so very new. Has that changed your perspective on anything?
Yeah, people like me that live on a farm, we want our property value as low as we can get it.
Right.
And pay off the house and just, you know. I started coming into contact with a lot of people over there who don't see it. They want their value high.
Right.
So they don't get underwater on their mortgage because they're strung out.
Right.
And I'm like, this is a different way of thinking, but I've adjusted to it, and it's part of trying to represent a community. You got to keep that in mind. But yeah, that was a different thing for a farm boy to figure out.
I bet, and I assume a lot of farmers would share those sentiments.
Yeah, I'm probably the biggest acreage left in Elmendorf that's not undeveloped,
Wow.
and it's not that much, only 30 acres.
Yeah.
Most of the big places have been cut up already,
Yeah.
and so most of the people don't have any idea what my little special interest would be. So I got to go out and figure out what theirs is, and that's how it works.
Very interesting. So, speaking of developments and things, the Hickory Ridge subdivision has been a pretty hot topic lately, with its projecting to bring, 4,000 homes
We'll
to the
be
community?
the size of Floresville if that all works out.
Wow. So, how is the city working to meet that growth?
The first thing that was done was to drill our own wells and try to wean ourselves off the San Antonio water system completely.
Okay. Yeah.
That's proved to be very challenging, very expensive. It's within the financial reach
Right.
of the city to do that. And it's mostly done, except for some supply issues that have crept up, supply chain, like you can't
Right.
get the pipe.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
a problem.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's a very serious problem, because when they finally get the pipe, it costs a lot more than what
Right.
the job bid out at. And the contractor that signed, he's like, I got to get out of this. I'm going to go broke if I stick to this.
Oh,
And
no.
it creates issues, and a lot of that's may result in litigation, although I'm sure most of the time you work to settle those kind of things because
Right.
it's in everybody's best interest.
Absolutely.
But that's a problem. The water system, though, is it's on. We're
That's
drinking
awesome.
the well water.
Wow.
Most of the town. There's only one place that still has to have a little bit of San Antonio water to maintain the water pressure in the fire hydrants.
Makes sense.
But that delay meant we had to contract with the city of San Antonio for another year.
Ooh, okay.
And their negotiating methods and the way they offer water is, it's not by the gallon.
Okay.
You got to go
Interesting.
by so many acre feet, and it's north of 600,000 a year, which is a lot of money for a little town.
That is a lot of money.
And that is why people have asked me, well, when are our rates going to go down? They
Well-
can't, as long as we're buying from San Antonio.
Right. So putting in these new wells is not just going to benefit the new people coming into the town, but it'll help the people who've already been there.
Yes, I mean, there would be no sense in doing something like that if it didn't benefit the existing residents.
Right.
So that's the reason it's being done.
That's awesome.
And with a drought coming, I'm glad we got as far as we have,
Yeah.
because I've been tracking rain where I live over there for 30 years.
Wow.
And we're due a drought, and these droughts usually are 1 or 2 years,
Yeah.
and we're ready. So that's one big thing that's out of the way, and I know that influenced the developer to go with houses.
Okay.
I love seeing houses
Absolutely.
because about 25, 30 years ago, that was San Antonio extraterritorial jurisdiction, and they were going to build a prison there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was not a pleasant prospect.
No.
There was
so,
a town hall meeting at Harmony Elementary, and a bunch of us went down there, and I guess we talked them out of it.
right.
Because that prison ended up, that's the Dominguez unit out there in Medina Base.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So
Better
houses
there than,
yeah. Houses are a pleasant welcome.
well,
Come on.
this is the reason some people are like, well, we don't like these changes, and I'm thinking, yeah, you think you don't like it.
But
It
it's-
could have been a lot
Yeah.
worse.
Better than the alternative.
Your neighbors will be much better. You don't have to lock your doors quite as much.
Right. Is there any other efforts that the city's making to match the growth?
For right now, that's just taking care of the water, enacting these tax incentive reinvestment zones, which I serve on
Okay. With
some of the
planning
boards
and
for
zoning.
that. That's been done. There's public improvement districts,
Interesting.
and those have been done as the developers see fit to cooperate with the city on that.
Right.
The city is blessed to have people who are versed in drawing that stuff up properly
Makes sense.
so that you don't get into some of the problems that happened back in 2005 when people who weren't
Well,
too qualified to do that allowed developers to take advantage of the situation. And that's on the developer, some of it, but it's also the city's got to protect its own interest. You got to do it right.
Absolutely.
Those people that can do that have to be paid, because if you don't pay them, some other city's looking for just that talent and they will. So
Right. It's pretty competitive.
very right now, your generation's blessed to be in a situation where they value you.
Well,
I was part of the baby boomer mob and nobody cared.
oh.
It's no big deal. That's just the way life is. Your
Yeah.
generation will also have challenges of not enough people to do the work.
Right.
And that's more scary than anything people like me had to face.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of all the newcomers, is the city looking to attract new residents?
You pretty much just lay it out there for the developer, what they own the property.
Right.
They build the houses, they risk money, which given this economy, I kind of don't see them hanging around on the roof of the buildings ready to jump, but it's challenging.
Right.
They are going to be the folks who will attract the buyers.
Right.
So all a city does is wait for them to come. There's really not a lot you can do short of maybe putting up a welcome to Elmendorf sign.
Right. Is that in the plans?
It was until the state told us they're going to expand 1604 and where the
When-
ideal spot, it's going to be wiped out. So
Oh.
don't do that yet. It'll come.
Right. Right. That's awesome, though. Well, what enhancements or services are you providing or looking to provide as a city that would make your city more attractive to the homeowners that are coming in or even to businesses?
We have businesses. There's an industrial park there. It's
Right.
partly in San Antonio, partly in Elmendorf.
Okay.
And you just try to offer the basics: sewer,
Okay.
city public service, or CPS energy as they call them now. We have electricity covered.
Awesome.
And we have the water from Elmendorf water on the Elmendorf side of that thing, or San Antonio from the other side. They've got what they would want, and they have railroad.
Awesome.
So
Yeah, so that's easy access for bigger corporations.
yeah, and you hope it attracts nice industries, no nuclear waste disposal or anything.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, are you looking to attract more businesses to the community?
That's a private sector thing.
Right.
You know, I've got a son who went to college and he believes in, something like this should be put there. And I'm like, well, okay, but do you own that property?
Right.
And
So
is that what you really want? I mean, the property owner drives that.
Absolutely.
So if they want business to come in, they will buy the property and they will put businesses in.
Makes sense.
And residential, when you've got 1,200 unit subdivision, I think that's enough. The builders that are coming in, First America Homes and Castle Rock Homes,
Interesting.
and then the existing subdivision over off Cassiana Road, the Homewood by
Okay.
Roush Coleman, you've got houses that'll be available the Roush Coleman are already on the market for the mid 200s
Wow.
up. It's the
Not bad.
yeah, affordable.
Affordable.
That's what they call it now. My generation would say, you gotta be nuts. But that's how things can change. But we've got it to attract that first time home buyer. The Castle Rock and First America, those are gonna be higher end.
Oh, wow.
I think if you ever get, when the roads open up and people can drive up into that subdivision, it's elevated. You're up on a hill. It's very nice up there.
Yeah, you can overlook the whole town, sipping your coffee on the porch.
Yeah, and I'm sure that's the kind of ambience they're going to try to project and it's very obvious to someone like me. I was given a tour of the water facilities, which are very modern, and when you're up there on that hilltop where the water tower is, you appreciate, that you're not down in a hole or anything like that. It's going to be a very nice place to live.
That's awesome. So as a city councilman, are you looking forward to the city's expected population growth?
Sure.
All right.
I am.
Yeah.
And I try to convince as many people out there that I talk to that this is going to be a good thing for them.
Right.
They may not think so. Taxes, they're fluid. They're likely to go up a little bit because we've got to retain the good people, our personnel.
Absolutely.
We've lost people with licenses that are critical.
Right.
And then you end up going and hiring contractors and people to backfill this, and that's not as efficient. You lose a lot of control. Your interaction with like the TCEQ, that can get kind of, because you don't,
complicated.
Yeah, you're not in control of it. It's the contractor, and how he chooses to approach it can affect how they look at the city. So it's better to have the people with the licenses, but you gotta pay them.
That makes sense. So will there be benefits to the city from the population growth? You mentioned it would be good.
It's gonna be a tale of two cities.
Okay.
The shiny little new city on the hill.
Right.
The older city down by the tracks.
Right. Okay.
That, you can't change that. It'll be interesting to me how the two are going to interact.
That makes sense. Yeah. Well, like you mentioned, there's the people by the tracks, as you said, more toward, like, going south by the church and the railroad, that area, who've been there forever. And then the new shiny houses further on north.
Yeah, that'll be a whole different type of people.
Wow.
Just based on the fact that they can qualify for the mortgages to buy those kinds of houses.
Right.
If they were politically active where they came from, they likely will bring that with them. And it's a very real possibility that old timers like me might just have to move out of the way for
Newcomers.
Which is how it is in any community that changes. I don't know if they've seen that kind of change here in Floresville that much, but with our proximity to San Antonio, we will see it.
Yeah. Great. Well, this has been some great information today. Thank you so much for coming and sharing.
Anytime.
You may have noticed a large green page in your copy of the Wilson County News over the last couple of weeks. This is our Pick It to Win It contest page, and it's all focused on high school, college, and NFL football games. Next, we're talking with Pam Smith, a customer service specialist at the Wilson County News. She's telling us all about the contest and the fun it brings our sports-loving community every year. Welcome to the show, Pam.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
So are we.
My first time.
I know, right? So what is Pick It to Win It? What's the gist?
The gist of Pick It to Win It is to get our advertisers to participate in something that they're very competitive about, which is football.
Right.
I have an example here of a page of what Pick It and Ticket to, we've called it so many different things. It's usually on the back of section A. It's in color. You see the guys across the top that are doing the picking, and then these are their picks. Some of them are very, very into this. Most of them are very, very into this, and they study ahead of time as to what teams are winning and losing, and whether they're playing at home or playing away. A lot of things are taken into consideration.
Wow.
The first week, Kenny from Red Wing Shoes won, and what they win is a free ad right here. That's a nice sized ad for no money, for their picking abilities. So basically that's the gist. It's of competitive nature. We've been doing this, I think this is the 5th year.
Wow.
This is the first year, if I'm not mistaken, that it's all guys. We have had some girls in the past. So it's an all guy venue this year.
All right. Well, what feedback have you received from participants this year so far?
A, they love it. B, they get a big kick out of people coming up to them and giving them a hard time if they lose, and giving them a good time if they win. So that tells me that the community does pay attention to this, and it's fun. It's high school, it's college, and it's professional games that are used, and we do a tiebreaker. So the points from that particular game will break any tie that, like if we have 3 guys that are 9-1, 9-2, we use that tiebreaker to break it.
Awesome. Okay. So are the scores of high school games, at least in our area, that people have guessed on, run in the paper at the same time as these people's guesses, so you can see who is right and who is wrong?
I think I understand your okay.
Yeah.
Like this was.
These are all games from August 26th.
Yes, this is
Yeah.
the week after.
Okay.
So the games are in the paper from these scores. Yes.
So you can double check
Yes.
which advertisers were right
Yes.
and wrong.
Yes, for sure. And I was going to tell you that the way this got started, we're a little iffy about. Somebody, either Robert, who was a sports editor, or I don't remember who, saw this in another paper.
Okay.
And we took it and did some twisting to it and
Made
did
it
our
our
own little
own.
spin. And I have a waiting list every year for the next year
Wow.
in case somebody drops out. Some of these guys have been doing it since day one,
That's awesome.
and they are not going to relinquish their spot.
Which of those advertisers have been doing it? If you can name any. If not, I can end it.
Okay. Fred at Acme, Kenny at Red Wing. I think either John or Matt from Helshers, and Houston from Caraway, Edmund from Prusky's Market, Blake from Kep, John Massengale from Massengale Armature, Sherman Posey from Intrepid, and David Buki from David and Son.
Wow.
So it's almost all of them.
Almost all of them.
Yeah.
And so this will go through the entire high school football season?
Well, it goes through all of high school,
Okay.
and it doesn't go through all of college and pro. It ends before their seasons are over.
Right.
And the first 2 weeks, it was all high school.
Okay.
And now there's going to be a sprinkling of pro and college
Awesome.
the rest of the 9 weeks.
So very exciting stuff that these advertisers are guessing on and that you get to watch them play. And surprise, surprise, we'll have one of the people who has been participating in this contest on our show next.
Mhm.
So thank you
You're
for
very
all
welcome.
the info.
You're very welcome. Y'all pay attention and give them a hard time or a good time, depending on whether they win or lose.
You heard it from Pam. Next, we're talking to longtime Pick It to Win It contest participant, Fred Onesorge. He's the owner of Acme Guns and Gear in Floresville, as well as a realtor at Dwell Realty in Floresville. Welcome to the press room.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Of course. So how long have you been participating in the Pick It to Win It football contest?
Since the very beginning.
Wow.
Yes,
All
ma'am.
right, so a veteran.
Yes, a veteran of the war, so to speak.
Yeah. So are you a big football fan?
Yes.
So
Yes.
what are your favorite teams to follow?
Like everybody here, obviously the Cowboys and the college teams, the Longhorns on my side. So Yeah, I watch it pretty regular, follow it pretty regular.
That's awesome. How do you go about picking who you think will win each week?
Well, this is a highly competitive deal that goes on.
Yeah.
So a lot of that information is proprietary. I don't like to give that out. So, but no, I have fun with it and look at it, and I put a little time in it just to be competitive and do it. It's fun.
Right.
But yeah, I do a little research. I just want to go in there and pick them out. I kind of look at them and see, look at the last week's results, and make calls to all the trainers, all the high school teams. They're doing.
Wow.
Not just kidding about that part, but yeah, it's a little bit of a process. It's fun, something to do.
That's good. Do you recommend the contest to others?
I do. When I first started, and to this day, I have customers come in the store. They'll see me and say, "Hey, you picked against us last week. See, we told you," or "Hey, we had a good team." So yeah, your readership, they follow it, and so it's from an advertising standpoint and from a awareness standpoint, it's a good deal for any business that wants to do it. It's well worth it.
Well, that's good to hear. What do you think is like the most enjoyable part about participating every year?
For me, the competitor side of it is seeing if I can have the best record and win.
That's nice.
In fact,
yeah.
I kind of have tracked my record over the last 4 or 5 years to see in the aggregate sense, so I'm probably 1 or 2 in the aggregate sense as far as the total wins versus losses. So.
Wow.
So yeah, it's fun.
That's pretty impressive.
It's fun. It's fun.
Well, thank you for your time today talking.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. It's a good, fun deal to do. So if there's ever a spot open, I would suggest to anybody go ahead and get in on the deal. It's fun to do, and you'll get a lot of feedback.
You heard him right there. So if y'all are interested in participating in next year's Pick It to Win It contest, be sure to contact us at the Wilson County News by calling 830-216-4519. That's all for today, folks. Thank you for tuning in to the Press Room with WCN-TV, brought to you by the Wilson County News. For more information about anything we mentioned in today's video, see the August 31st edition of the Wilson County News or find it online at wilsoncountynews.com. You can also find articles corresponding to each topic discussed today in this video's description. Remember to follow us where you're watching so you never miss an episode of the Press Room. And consider subscribing to print, digital, or both editions of the Wilson County News online at wilsoncountynews.com or by calling us at 830-216-4519. This way, you'll never miss an edition of your local newspaper. Also at wilsoncountynews.com, you can find more news, free news resources, and our app, Go Wilson, which is free to download. We hope you'll tune in next week for another episode of The Press Room with WCN-TV. We'll see you then.